you're not prepared for this one. Just as we thought Chrissy Lampkin had hung up her scandal heels, and Jim Jones was finally taking a breather from the drama gods. Boom. Brooke Bailey just come out swinging with tea, so hot that it may reduce the entire Dipet heritage to ashes, and believe me, this isn't your average. He stated that she described this as treachery on a whole other level. Jim appears to be the last to know at his own surprise funeral. So, what did Chrissy do that made the streets shake? Jim is speechless, and Brooke Bailey, she clutched her pearls. Why is Brooke, of all people, breaking her silence after years of staying out of the mess? And how did Chrissy outmaneuver Jim Jones, who once declared that the entire game bowed to him? You best sit down, because what you're about to hear may just reverse everything you thought you understood about loyalty, revenge, and fine art of industrial chess moves. We're talking about covert connections, backdoor business agreements, and a cold betrayal. Elsa would reply, "Girl, that's a bit much. Let's deconstruct the pandemonium because, baby, it's deeper than drama, it's war." It all began with whispers circulating throughout the industry. Those quiet small noises that normally fade as quickly as they arrive. But this time, they stuck. They sprouted legs, ran wild, and evolved into something far more than a rumor. People started. Everyone was talking, but no one was mentioning Jim Jones. It was Chrissy, and anyone who is even remotely familiar with hip-hop culture realizes that Chrissy and Jim have been riding or dying for what feels like a century. She's been with him through it all. Loyal, patient, and, let's be honest, waiting far too long for that ring. And while the streets always had ideas about their relationship, no one expected Chrissy to be the one to make the kind of move leave Jim feeling surprised and misled. But here we are, out of nowhere. Brooke Bailey, who is usually silent when it comes to other people's turmoil, rushes into the spotlight as if she has been saving receipts for years. And when she spoke, she didn't simply spill gossip, she spilled the entire scandal. According to Brooke, Chrissy Hazy've been playing a peaceful game for quite some time. One that did not include Jim and the baby, despite her recent relocation. Let's just claim they weren't only about love. They were about power, money, and creating something that did not bear Jim's name attached to it. The T. Chrissy has supposedly been in discussions with significant stakeholders behind the scenes, creating connections, securing meetings, and whispering in ears with significant influence and even larger checkbooks. And where was Jim during all this? What's going on? Standing on stages, defending their love as if it were unshakable. Meanwhile, Chrissy was apparently preparing her departure strategy brick by brick without looking back. Insiders believe she was spotted at high-level networking events in LA, then in Miami, and finally in private meetings in Atlanta. And none of it Jim was among those included. The woman who previously swore herself his forever had gently removed herself from the Eredivan, placed herself into a much larger one. Then came the leaks, a few unnamed sources, some fuzzy images, and the audio sample sounded far too real to dismiss. Apparently, Chrissy was heard discussing a large real estate. The investment deal is expected to be worth 8 figures, and it involves someone the industry is familiar with. One of Jim Jones' oldest rivals. Yes, Jim was once recorded calling a snake someone he said he'd never talk to again, let alone dine with. Now, that man was sitting across from Chrissy at a business table plotting something enormous. Initially, individuals tried to brush it off. A few vague tweets, a few amusing Instagram captions. But then Brooke Bailey doubled down. She didn't just speak, she backed it up. She released a set of voice notes, alleged messages, and a timeline. People were staring at their screens, mouths open, due to the level of detail. According to Brooke's version of events, Chrissy did not just randomly stumble, make a deal. This has been in the works for more than a year. Dinners, the everything, including the handshakes and documents, was arranged. And Jim is absolutely in the dark. According to rumors, he discovered it wasn't from Chrissy. It came from someone in his own circle, who had received wind of the arrangement and assumed Jim was already aware. When he confronted Chrissy, an explosion could be heard through the walls. She did not refute it. She did not fold. She did not even blink. She told him straight out that she was tired of waiting, being ignored, and having her name associated with his shadow. She said she was doing something bigger for herself than being a rapper's girlfriend. And Jim didn't take it well. According to reports, he left the residence that night and has not returned for several days. Some believe he went to Harlem, will regroup. Others claim he went directly to his lawyers. What we do know is this: that moment altered everything. Jim's team went on lockdown. His social media went black, and Chrissy remained quiet, calm, and calculated. But Brooke wasn't finished talking. She claimed Chrissy had arranged 3 other deals behind Jim's back. Neither one nor one involves a premium fashion partnership. Another, purportedly, a written series based on her life with Atha. Production company has previously suggested a documentary series about Chrissy and Jim as a couple. Talk about a plot twist. If this is true, Chrissy is repackaging her relationship's drama and turning it into a pro. Meanwhile, Jim was scrambling. According to insiders, he began contacting mutual pals in an effort to get answers. Some people declined to get engaged. Others told him outright Chrissy had been moving. For a while, he didn't want to see it. What hurt the most? Jim trusted one of these mutuals with his life. Someone who reportedly helped broker one of Chrissy's hidden transactions. The betrayal went further than anyone could have imagined. Oh, the public wasim eating it up. Twitter was on fire. Instagram comment sections were inundated with wild speculation. And followers were divided. Some were cheering Chrissy on, dubbing her a queen for finally accepting her own authority. Some dragged her for playing dishonest, accusing her of exploiting Jim's name to get ahead, only to shut him out when the money came in. But the real stinger is that someone on Chrissy's team allegedly leaked a pitch deck to a media outlet. And right there, in the frontal it took, was a phrase in the center that said, "From behind the man to building the brand." Screenshots went viral. Think pieces appeared overnight, and the narrative abruptly shifted. Chrissy was more than simply a woman scorned. She was a calculated boss, who had planned ahead of time and was now reaping the benefits. As everything fell apart, Jim's quiet became increasingly audible. There are no statements. There were no interviews, no dodgy Instagram stories, just silence. Which spoke volumes for Jim, a man who is known for speaking up. Though the question now was, how deep did this go? Because, if Chrissy had indeed been preparing this for over a year, who else knew? Who helped? Who remained silent as Jim kept posting relationship goals and talking about forever? And, most importantly, what would Chrissy do next, now that the mask was fully come off, and the world recognized her not only as the girlfriend, but as the mastermind who had been pulling strings silently all along? And just when they believed the pandemonium had peaked, it became even messier, because it was no longer merely it wasn't about who Chrissy had been working with, but what she intended to do next. The betrayal was already revealed in open, but the complexities of her scheme were just beginning to emerge. Behind the scenes, whispers began to surface that Chrissy wasn't only about corporate clout. She was establishing herself as a power player in a whole different environment. According to an alleged insider close to both camps, Chrissy had been quietly assembling a team of financial advisors, media consultants, and entertainment attorneys, long before Jim had any idea what was happening. And this wasn't a rushed retribution plan, it was meticulously planned, strategic, and chillingly precise. Apparently, she had planned a 3-year rollout, complete with brand partnerships, licensing, agreements, and a digital content empire were all established under her own name. No Jones connected, shadow, no permission required. And the twist: the same investor supporting Chrissy's empire was alleged to have someone who once offered Jim a deal and was flatly rejected. Sources indicate the investor personally took it back. Then, and today, this was his way of settling the score and financing the woman. Jim never expected to go away. But Chrissy did not simply walk away, she walked in with an entire army. Private discussions were taking place in Beverly Hills boardrooms. NDAs were signed like candy, and talent companies who had previously solely expressed interest in Jim were now reaching out to Chrissy. The transition was occurring in real time. And Jim was trapped, attempting to piece together a tale that had already moved forward without him. Meanwhile, Brooke Bailey was still dropping breadcrumbs, carefully selecting her words while making it very clear that the people had just seen the surface. During an exclusive chat with an underground podcast, Brooke allegedly, "People keep questioning why I spoke up, but you don't even know half of what Chrissy's been sitting on. It wasn't petty, this was war." That comment alone sent followers spinning, searching for anything they may have missed. Then it happened. Somebody released Ava. Kicker is a month-old business registration that lists Chrissy as the CEO of a new lifestyle brand. The brand's slogan was a statement she famously used in a love and hip-hop confessional. a statement she made during a fight with Jim. It was personal, sharp, and distinctive. It seems like she had every terrible moment of their relationship was converted into content and wealth. Jim reacted. Someone close to him said it was explosive. They said he flung his phone across the room when he saw Fee filing. He was not only angry, but also stunned. For years, he believed Chrissy had his back. Even when things weren't always going smoothly, he believed the loyalty was mutual. But suddenly, he realized that while he was busy defending his love in interviews and on social media, Chrissy was constructing an escape route: silence. As if that wasn't enough, word spread that Chrissy had booked a major talk show appearance that was known for revealing secrets, airing grudges, and allowing guests to tell their side of the story, unfiltered. People in the industry understood what this meant. She wasn't simply going to launch her brand, she intended to tell everything. Every dispute, delay, or broken everything was supposed to be explained on national television. And Jim had no way of stopping it. His legal team tried. They delivered warnings, attempted to tug contractual strings, and allegedly made calls to producers, but Chrissy had made it clear that she owned her version of the story, and there was nothing they could legally do to quiet her. Jim started fighting back in the only way he knew how, with power moves. He sought out to former colleagues, attempted to secure new arrangements, and made a few surprise cameos of his own. '09 particular stirred concerns with a mysterious Instagram live in which he didn't mention Chrissy by name but stated, "Sometimes you give someone your world and they sell it behind your back." The video quickly went viral, generating thousands of comments, speculation, and thought pieces. Fans were divided. Some claimed Jim was the real victim, citing all the years Chrissy had allegedly benefited from his current status. Others argued Chrissy had waited long enough and had every right to forge her own path. But while all of this was going on online, something else occurred behind closed doors. A sealed court filing surfaced just weeks after the scandal broke. According to a leaked document, Jim's legal team had begun a stealthy examination into the common assets amongst them. Despite the fact that they had never been formally married, it was a preemptive strike. Insiders indicated that Chrissy's next partnerships could include ventures featuring Jim's name or likeness. That move proved something huge. Jim wasn't simply hurt, he was prepared for World War II, and Chrissy did not flinch. In fact, sources say she doubled down, unveiling the first part of her new venture with an unexpected drop in a digital campaign. The images were crisp, modern, and impactful. And in the Chrissy stood alone, wearing a sharp suit, staring directly at the camera with one line: "Don't wait for your name to be called. Build your own table." It wasn't simply branding, it was a declaration, and anyone who had it was a warning to everybody who had ever seen her as someone else's girlfriend. Meanwhile, the streets were humming with a Newsom claimed that Chrissy had anticipated Jim's every move and knew he'd try to stop or slow her down. Discredit her, so she stacked her deals, diversified her alliances, and shifted the money into channels he couldn't access. She had purportedly shielded herself from the inside out. If this was true, then Jim was about to lose more than just his relationship. He was also going to lose control of the narrative. All of this came to a head after an unexpected encounter at a music business event in New York. According to eyewitnesses, Jim arrived unannounced, dressed to kill, and clearly tense. Chrissy was already there, calm and cool, surrounded by a small staff. The two apparently locked eyes, but did not speak. There was no yelling, no public outburst, just silence. Silence that screams louder than words. And it was evident to everyone around them that this was far from over. Even so, the aftermath of that silent confrontation only exacerbated the storm. Fans reviewed hazy videos from the event, trying to read body language and conjecture about who blinked first behind closed doors. Both Chrissy and Jim were making moves that demonstrated this wasn't simply a nasty split, but a full-blown power struggle. Jim was not going to sit back and let Chrissy climb without resistance. Rumors began to circulate that he was using every advantage he had in the industry to deny her access to certain agreements. Executives who had previously been neutral were now forced to pick sides, and while Chrissy had her own, Jim had a history, clout, and influence that allowed him to change everything with a single phone call. According to sources close to Chrissy, she had anticipated this and had backup plans in place. Investors, in case Jim started burning bridges. This is when things got extremely nasty. Chrissy allegedly collected receipts, years of financial papers, text messages, and voice notes indicating occasions when Jim may have receipts that could cause serious harm if exposed or used in ambiguous legal situations. According to one insider, Chrissy threatened Jim privately, "If you attempt to shut me down, I'll show you." That statement alone was enough to cause alarm in Jim's camp. Suddenly, lawyers went into overdrive, and publicists scrambled to track every headline. Jim's closest allies pleaded with him to back down before Chrissy detonated an unrecoverable bomb. But it was too late. Just days later, an unknown source disclosed a clip of what seemed to be a financial nothing illegal has been established. But there are enough anomalies to cause concern. Asking questions sparked industry blogs, and the narrative changed within hours. Now, it wasn't just Chrissy going into her power. It was Jim attempting to stop her. Chrissy's enthusiasm continued to grow while he hid his own filth. Brand launches gained traction. Interviews lined up, and the long-rumored talk show appearance was finally confirmed. She was going on national television, and everyone knew she wasn't holding back. The promos teased dramatic words like "I remained loyal until it cost me my life," and "You can only be silent for so long before the truth screams." Jim tried to get ahead of the game by posting a brief video on his Facebook.com, but visibly wounded, he expressed disappointment not only with Chrissy's conduct, but also with how public they had become. He spoke of betrayal, of people forgetting who was there from the beginning, and of attempting to protect what they had established. It was emotional, raw, and initially elicited sympathy. But then came the show. Chrissy sat across from the host.com and composed, and, for the first time, she told her story in full. She did not drag him through the mud, nor did she shout. She simply brought forth the facts. She waited for a commitment that never arrived, and she gave up opportunities to support his goal. How she believed in his vision, even when it didn't include her, and how she eventually realized that trusting in herself had to come first. And the crowd listened intently. When the host questioned if she still loved Jim, Chrissy paused, looked straight at the camera, and answered, "I'll always have affection for I used to love him, but now I prefer myself." That was the final nail in the coffin. Clips circulated like wildfire on social media, and people weren't just watching them. They were. Some praised Chrissy for finally standing up for herself. After years of emotional stagnation, others accused her of using fragility to disguise ambition. Nonetheless, she had gained charge of the GM, was left to react rather than lead the story, and behind the scenes, damage control kicked into high gear. Contracts were being evaluated, and endorsement arrangements were suspended. Mutual friends began to distance themselves. And then came the unexpected final twist. A former business associate of Jim's came forward anonymously, alleging that some of Chrissy's allegations weren't merely. This associate said that certain deals had been kept off the books, that Jim had always assumed Chrissy would keep quiet, and he had made promises to her that were never kept. Chrissy was no longer just the lady who finally snapped. She had shattered everything. She was viewed as the woman who had been wronged for years and finally had enough. Jim's supporters, they scrambled to hold the line, but cracks appeared, and Chrissy continued to move. More brand drops, more appearances, and even rumors of a book deal began to circulate. She was unstoppable. And now she wasn't just building a name, but an empire. And Jim, the term Chrissy effect was used by industry insiders to characterize ladies who had been overlooked, hushed, or overshadowed in relationships and were now taking charge of their narratives. She had inadvertently started a movement, and her name was everywhere. But with power comes enemies. People who had once rumors of sabotage attempts, hacked emails, and internal treason were now turning cold. Chrissy stayed firm and issued a statement that simply said, "I haven't come this far twice, let them arrive." Suddenly, the war began. The conflict between her and Jim escalated into a battle for identity, power, and legacy. As the dust settles, one thing is clear: this isn't simply a split. This is a business rivalry, cultural transition. A woman waited, supported, sacrificed, and determined. Enough was enough, and most would not dare. She flipped the entire script, wrote her own, and braved the entire world should read it. And whether you love or hate her, one thing cannot be denied. Cre Linen was no longer the lady behind the man. She is the woman, rewriting the game. And everyone is being forced to watch though. So that's all. The mysteries have reached the surface. The game has officially changed. The real question is, whose side are you on? Are you standing with Jim Jones and trying? He thought to piece together the empire. Was it unshakable? Are you riding with someone Chrissy Lampkin, the woman who broke free, emerged from the shadows and established a legacy of his at her own. This narrative isn't simply about betrayal or business, this is about control, respect, and ultimately choosing yourself. Let's be honest, if this is just the beginning. We haven't seen, nothing has happened yet. The next move could be a flip, everything is turned upside down again, so I fear here for the drama, and the truth, and every twist that is yet to come. You already know what to do, smash that like button. Leave your views in the comments because we need to know where you stand. And most crucially, subscribe to this channel. We are bringing you the most authentic, raw, and unfiltered breakdowns you won't find anywhere. Otherwise, switch on those notifications because tales like every second counts. The flames have only just started. And when is the next when the bombshell drops? You'll want to be the first to know. Stay tuned for this. The saga is far from over.